The year is 2010, and this was where we get to see three racing games that came out at the same time: Mod Nation Racers, Split Second, and Blur. Previously, I just talked about Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Turbocharged and its Ken first game. But now it's time to talk about the equivalent about the arcade style racing game that was released on this at the same time as Mod Nation Racers and Split Second, Blur. Um, everyone actually praised Blur. Everybody actually compared Blur to Mario Kart. And everyone actually praised Blur for being a great fast-paced arcade styled racing game. What do I mean by it? Well, let's talk about this well-known video game. And despite it was unsuccessful during disappointment sales. So what is this Blur? Is it a word for if you were having blurry eyes? No, the actual video game. Let's talk about it. Blur, stylized as Blur, is a 2010 vehicular combat arcade-style racing video game from Microsoft Windows, PS3, and the Xbox 360. It was developed by Bizarre Creations and was published by Activision. The game features a racing style that incorporates real-world cars and locales with arcade-style handling and vehicular combat. Blur was the penultimate game developed by Bizarre Creations before they were shut down by Activision on February 18th, 2011. It's centered on vehicular combat. The game tracks present 8 different power-ups that the cars can pick up. What's that you say? Did you say power-ups, Tajmir? Yes, power-ups. If you do not, to new people or new gamers, if you guys do not know, everybody said that Blur is basically Mario Kart with licensed vehicles. Can you believe it? It's actually Mario Kart, but with licensed vehicles. That's right, licensed vehicles. And guess what? It's basically like Mario Kart actually. Actually, I actually did watch videos about the long play gameplay of Blur, and surely enough, I'm actually impressed. Blur is a fun arcade style racing game which has good potential, actually. Good potential. Now, in some people's honesty, racing games with power-ups are more aimed toward that casual audiences. Well, no need for just casual audiences. It's aimed for all audiences. I mean, some people even plays racing games with power-ups. So it's more of a wide spectrum than just casual audiences. For instance, like what all do you know what else is a game that has power-ups? Mario Kart. Besides that, I mean, when we look at Mario Kart, skilled drivers aren't guaranteed a win as they get pummeled by a blue shell, lightning bolt, and banana as being posed as a threat. And Blur is striving to more like Mario Kart, but with licensed cars, actually. The efficacy of what Mario Kart is supposed to look like, it actually, some of the companies actually tried to combat that with that sort of success. in 2007, a Hot Wheels arcade style racing game goes by the name of Hot Wheels Beat That. Launched back in 2007 for the PlayStation 2, Xbox 360, and the DS and such, and it tried to follow the strive of Mario Kart and it's literally Mario Kart, but with the Hot Wheels brand. So, and the power ups are very good with variety on them. Airstrike, the Airstrike is a blue shell. Oh, mostly, probably. Ranged weapons like just standard rockets and homing rockets are like green shells and red shells. Shockwave mines are bananas. As the Tesla not only slows down the vehicle all during Hot Wheels Beat That, but the supercharged Tesla not only shocks the other opponent, but also prevents them from steering, which they can take the consequences. And also getting hit by the same opponent car are 2 times, meaning you need to go and get even and get revenge on that specific type of that opponent car that is bullying you. This efficacy kind of carried on towards Blur. Blur, which is a competitor of sorts, which released in 2010, showed us what Hot Wheels Beat That did look like, except with the blue shells or efficacy of airstrikes into the mix. The lightning bolts are like green shells. Shunts are like red shells. Mines work like bananas, and the lightning bolt can fuck over the leader and can try to damage your car. Skilled drivers are more likely to drive around the shock, or optionally to drive through it if they can take the consequences, which is very interesting, and it carries a great tradition of what of the simple power ups would have done. Honestly, each card can carry a maximum of 3 power ups at any given time, and that they can switch and activate at will, or discard actually. Out of the 8 power ups, 5 of them are weapons, with the remaining ones being a defensive shield, a repair wrench that restores any damage that the card may have sustained, and a nitrous boost. Several of the weapons' behavior can be modified to select whether the player wants them to fire forwards or backwards. And most of them can also be used defensively against attacks from other cars. Also, much like Hot Wheels Beat That, if the opponent is bullying you, you must take revenge. It doesn't matter how many times you need to take a revenge on that same opponent to take it. Now, there is a career mode. The player will be consulted by Shannon to encounter numerous characters and many licensed cars like the Dodge Viper and the Lotus Escape, as well as tuned cars like the Ford Supervan, fitted with an F1 car engine. Each car represents its own unique traits, such as acceleration, speed, drift, grip, and stability. So honestly, the cars Blur gave us were divided into car trait classes. Okay. Kind of a little off topic, but this carried the same tradition as Need for Speed Carbon, where the specific cars on Carbon gave us the exact line of a trait of where the cars are in. Muscle cars are made for good acceleration and for some sort of a sliding around and drifting with a slightly arcadey feel. And such. Some carries the Need for Speed Most Wanted and Need for Speed Underground tradition, sorta. Uh, and, and what else? I don't know what else. Also the car trade. Also the trade class is kind of carried on to the tradition. Kind of carried the tradition though. I mean, we looked at Midnight Club 3 where certain cars that they have were divided into groups. Oops. And from last year, Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Turbocharge had that car class things being divided into trade groups. Some special car models have been designed by Bizarre Creations themselves, albeit being simplified. The tracks are actually based on real world environments, such as Los Angeles, river canals, and several parts of London. Depending on the characters, the car races against or tags along within team races. They will have their own unique racing styles, power-up setups, match types, locales, and cars. As the player reaches the podium in races, performs stunts, and uses power-ups in certain ways, they will gain fan points. These points will help the player progress through the career, purchase more cars and parts, and earn more fans for the user base. Also, during the career, players will encounter fan icons along the track. Driving through these will trigger a short challenge. Shooting another car with a certain weapon or performing a long drift, which will reward the player with a fan points boost. However, if you fail to do that fan challenge, that means you'll have to try again. During the career mode, each challenge features a final boss, which, once defeated, will yield across to their specific mods. Mods being upgrades that provides enhanced functionality to a standard power-up. Ergo, Chan's titanium shield, and customized cars. At the final boss challenge, all the bosses meet together for a final race. A trailer and tips video for the game on Xbox Live mentioned a feature that never made it to the final game. The feature, called Double Tap, was meant to allow a player to combine several power-ups of the same type for a more powerful effect. By double tapping the special power use button, the video was removed near the release of the game, and little, if any, mention of the feature seems to have been made again. The double tap feature was not present in the free multiplayer demo of the game offered on Xbox Live. The reception was very warm, despite not being successful. The game received favorable reviews on all platforms, according to Metacritic. In Japan, FantasyU gave it a 29 out of 40. Okay. What? While FantasyU X360 gave the Xbox 360 version a score of 3/8 and 1/7 for a total of 31 out of 40. Edge gave the 360 version a score of 8 out of 10, saying it provides too little in any gauging structure behind its extemporary racing to make it more than a series of thrilling rides. GameZone gave the game 7.5 out of 10, saying that Blur is an average racing game with a powered-up twist. Repeating races and receiving beautiful cars that remain untouched due to the lack of customization gets old fast. The outdated rate vibe, including the music and menus, don't do the presentation any favors either. As a multiplayer title, Blur is absolutely exhilarating. The sales weren't very warm though. But it did get 500,000 units. Blur sold 31 100,000 units in its first 5 days of release, according to NPD. The game ultimately sold later on. However, the sales were very disappointing. Despite the sales being a disappointment, Nick Davies of Bizarre Creations had announced in July 2010 that the studio intended to create more games in the series. And wanted to make the biggest racing franchise. That means Blur is going to be a franchise actually. However, the fact that Mod Nation Racers and Split Second were released at the same time as Blur, despite favorable reviews and great awesome reviews. However, Split Second, along with Blur itself, would get outnumbered by Mod Nation Racers, aka the Mario Kart clone. Yeah, Mod Nation Racers. This was released at the same time, and it was a go-kart racing video game developed by Unit Front Games for the PlayStation 3, and would later and the PSP version would come under the development of San Diego Studio. Mod Nation Racers actually received great favorable reviews, and it sold a lot of copies, and actually beaten Split Second and Blur, and led to the downfall of the two companies who made Split Second and Blur. More on that in a moment. Bizarre Creations made Blur via the Horizon engine. Yeah. Bizarre Creations, the British game developer or studio based in Liverpool, is very best for their racing titles. Metropolitan Street Racer for Dreamcast, and the follow-up, Project Gotham Racing Series. In my all honesty, Blur really deserved better. It really deserved better. To be fair, even Split Second actually. Just so to everyone know that in October 2013, a free-to-play spin-off mobile game of Blur was introduced called Blur Overdrive, released on Android, and would be developed by Nottingham-based AppCrowd, distributed by Marmalade, who licensed the Blur brand from Activision. An iOS version was released on November 1st of that year. Blur Overdrive uses a top-down perspective and features 8 different power-ups and 6 cars, which can be upgraded individually in 10 steps. Okay, why is the game in top-down perspective? Honestly, it should have been in third-person perspective, not top-down perspective. I mean, look at Grand Theft Auto 1, for example. The game was in top-down perspective, along with the sequel, GTA 2. However, by later, Rockstar Games decided that it's time to put GTA in third person. And they certainly did that. They had an agreement with Criterion to use the renderware engine and made GTA 3 in the Criterion Games renderware engine. Then in came GTA Vice City and San Andreas and such. Yeah. Even other games got third-person perspective, like the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. Mind me to tell you that the SpongeBob SquarePants movie video game was also made in a renderware engine. Oops. The secret's out. How do I even know? Go to the Wikipedia page. Look up game engines and try to find renderware in it. And you might see how many games that used the Criterion Games renderware engine actually. Anyway, back to Blur. A sequel was planned for Blur, and work had started on it with an all-new engine, but was ultimately canceled when Bizarre Creations was shut down by Activision. Work in progress videos of the intended sequel were released post-modern, one of which show a race in Blur's Brighton track, adding a rainstorm. Another that shows an Audi R8 racing in a track set in Dubai. Yeah. After Blur's bad reception and sales, well, it did get good reception, but with Blur failing, just like what happened with Split Second, on February 18th, 2011, Activision announced that it would close down Bizarre Creations, stating, "Over the past 3 years since our purchase of Bizarre Creations, the fundamentals of the racing genre have changed significantly. Although we made a substantial investment in creating a new IP, Blur, it did not find a commercial audience. Bizarre is a very talented team of developers. However, because of the broader economic factors impacting the market, we are exploring our options regarding the future of the studio, including a potential sale of the business." So this would mark the end for Bizarre Creations. Remind me to tell you that 2010, Blur was one of the last projects X, alongside with Geometry Wars Touch and James Bond 007 Bloodstone, which was released east as well. So the writing was on the wall for Blur. Bizarre Creations have been very talented, actually. So, with the matter of which Activision knew that Blur did not go well. Bizarre Creations was dissolved completely in 2011, and it was succeeded by Lucrid Games Limited, which is a British game developer. As the studio was founded in 2011 by former employees from Bizarre Creations, which had been shut down a week earlier. Personally, I still could not believe that Activision gave up their freaking IP for something that they had to do. Shut down Bizarre Creations. And then the employees of Bizarre Creations made a new studio called Lucrid Games Limited. Mind me to tell you that Lucrid Games was the developer behind Grand Theft Auto Liberty City Stories. They actually made the GTA Liberty City Stories port for Android, Fire OS, and iOS devices. And they were also responsible for Geometry Wars 3 Dimensions, Destruction All Stars, and Sea of Thieves. Personally, I still couldn't believe how Activision and even Disney had to give up those two studios who made Blur and Split Second after the unsuccessful sales. Now, whatever you guys are saying, it wouldn't be the team or the publishers' fault. The fault of the matter happens to go to Mod Nation Racers, according to some people. Because of Mod Nation Racers, Blur and Split Second just became unsuccessful. That's it. I mean, nothing else. both games were a failure, and both of them really deserved better. Also, if you're thinking about trying to get Blur on Steam, yeah, you're out of luck. You're out of luck. Blur was removed from Steam not long after being released in 2010. Now it's time to talk about another video game. Yeah, we're gonna be discussing two games actually. Let's talk about Split Second or Split Second Velocity. Let's talk about who published and who made it. BlackRock Studios or BlackRock Studio Limited. This was a British video game developer, just like Bizarre Creations. However, it's not based in Liverpool, but it's based in Brighton, England, and it was a division of Disney Interactive Studios. Now, it was previously known as Climax Studios, later known as Climax Racing, Climax Driving, and then it later became BlackRock Studio, and then soon in 2010 it was defunct. Fucking defunct. The studio was responsible for creating Hot Wheels World Race and Hot Wheels Stunt Track Challenge, both two arcade racer games, though they're not arcade-like, but they're literally arcade racers though, so it's not a problem. And you probably know them behind MotoGP 2006 and 2007. And yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. That even Crash and Burn, they are also responsible for that game too, and would be published by Eidos. Anyway, BlackRock Studio, or as we affectionately call it, Climax. They made Split Second as it's part of an arcade racing genre. Now I'm sure most of people know about Split Second, but I'm just gonna have to tell you anyway. It's a racing video game, which in reality is actually an arcade style racing game. Actually, yeah, it's an arcade style racing game. So that's an arcade racer. So that's another thing. It would be developed by BlackRock Studio and would be published by Disney Interactive Studio. Yeah. Climax / BlackRock Studio was acquired by Disney. A company who has Disney Channel, Playhouse Disney, Disney Junior. Yeah. The game was released in May 2010 and was later released on OnLive in June 2011. It takes place as part of a fictional reality television show consisting of a variety of events, each focusing on destructible environments triggered remotely by driver actions, known as power plays. Split Second would get ported over to PlayStation Portable in November 2010 by Sumo Digital. And this was proven to be the last video game developed by Climax Studios, aka BlackRock Studios, before being closed by Disney in 2011. And the players would take part in a fictional reality TV programming where participants race for money and fame. Throughout a race, players can build up their power play meter by performing stunts such as ramps and mid-air overtakes and precision driving, such as drafting opponents and drifting. As players build up their meter, special events can be triggered, which create obstacles for other players, open up temporary shortcuts, or alter an entire section of the race course. These triggers are also activated by the AI opponents. Yikes. Such events range from shockwave-inducing explosions to buckling highways and dam breachers. The severity of the events available to trigger varies depending on how full the player's meter is. The level 1 events became available when one or two of the free segments of the bar are full, while the level 2 events can only be triggered upon a full bar. Event locations and the vehicles they will affect are highlighted with the blue icons for the level 1 power plays and red icons for level 2. And the player must time the action accurately in order to hinder the opponents as much as possible. The power play meter is used up by one segment once a level 1 event is triggered. So the player must also choose whether to activate the less destructive first level events as soon as they are available, or save the power play energy and build it up further in order to trigger the top tier actions. There are also certain power plays that can be reused, such as explosives dropped from helicopters and exploding tankers and shortcuts. But some other power plays are permanent and can only be used once in a single race. BlackRock Studio also wanted to make the UHD as simple as possible by taking away all unnecessary elements such as the speedometer and the track map, rendered useless due to the dynamic nature of the track, only leaving the lap count. Also, the target time and detonator and air revenge modes are also, as well as the target score and airstrike and survival modes. The position that the player is in, the power play meter, all positioned behind the player's car to avoid detracting from the scenery. So, the game also has a multiplayer mode with both 8-player online and 2-player split screen offline available. There are also 15 tracks in the standard game, most of which are located in life-size city shown under construction in the tutorial. 2 tracks could be acquired as DLC. Yeah, BlackRock made DLC. A time-saver DLC pack was released upon the game's launch, which will unlock all cars, tracks, and modes without the player having to unlock them by playing through the game's season mode. The High Octane Supercar pack was released in August 2010. The next paid download was released as the Survival on the Rock pack. Then there's a Deadline pack, a Quarry Onslaught pack. Yeah, that's a final DLC pack. All the downloadable content, with the exception of 2 free add-ons, is available in Europe as part of the Ultimate Edition, a complete bundle that also includes the digital version of the game. In late 2014, Split Second was released on Steam, alongside with Epic Mickey 2 and Pure. This version of the game does not have support for online multiplayer matchmaking. The critical reception was actually very positive. Split Second received positive reviews at the site Metacritic, and it was also been nominated for Racing Game of the Year. However, despite getting positive reviews from critics, the game, just like Blur, was commercially unsuccessful, as it only sold 86,000 copies in the United States in its first 12 days. Despite that, a sequel was announced. After finishing episode 12, a cutscene is shown in which power plays in the city are active by unknown perpetrators in construction vehicles, with the panicked voice of a TV crew member claiming that the group were taken off the air in 82, following the black screen reading "To be continued." In May of 2011, Eurogamer spoke to an anonymous source that confirmed Disney Interactive Studios has made a reduction at BlackRock Studios' workforce. Due to Disney's new management, the sequel was canceled in December 2010, despite attempts to fit with their new business model. So, at the matter of which, Split Second ended on a cliffhanger. That's right, it ended on a cliffhanger. So, at the matter of which, BlackRock Studios, formerly known as Climax, had been laid off. A lot of employees at BlackRock and slash Climax were laid off, and Disney saw that that writing was all over the wall. Despite the IP getting good reviews. I mean, Pure and Split Second, despite good reviews for both games, Disney turned down both sequels to focus on freemium content. On June 30th, 2011, Disney Interactive Studios announced their intent to enter a consultation process on the proposal to close down the studio. Several 300 ex-employees have formed new studios, including Studio Gobo and a few other studios. BlackRock Studios was discontinued not long after. And several employees have formed new studios, which are the following: Studio Gobo, West Pier Studio, Round Cube Entertainment, Short Round Games, and Boss Alien. Personally, I personally cannot believe that Disney would do that to BlackRock like that. I mean, it was idiotic for Disney to close down BlackRock slash Climax Studios. I mean, Climax, aka BlackRock, was famous for Hot Wheels World Race and Stunt Track Challenge, and they made Mattel proud. They made Mattel proud because, I mean, those two Hot Wheels games, World Race and STC, they were my STC mostly was my childhood, and Disney took it all away. I mean, if Climax Studios were alive, they would still make new Hot Wheels video games, but they won't be able to after all that failure of Split Second and Pure. So with this, with the arcade racing genre dying out, most of these arcade style racing games live on through mobile gaming. Arcade racers, if you are wondering, are still starting to die out, but it's trying to go on strong. We even had two arcade style racing games from based from the Hot Wheels property brand, Hot Wheels Unleashed and Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Turbocharged. And yes, even Need for Speed still alive. That's another arcade racing title. So, with the arcade racing genre still dying, actually, we surely hope that America would actually save the most iconic arcade-style racing game genre. But if not, then all of it is lost. Yeah, all of this is lost. I mean, the only arcade-style racing games that are still trying to keep the arcade racing genre alive today would be Mario Kart and what else? Nickelodeon Kart Racers, the series. Yeah. Need for Speed and Forza Horizon as well. Oh. So with the failure of Blur and Split Second, we don't know what will happen next. We don't know what would happen next with the arcade racing genre. Thank you guys all for watching. See you next time.